Die Zwarte Pieten, dat kan echt niet meer, toch?
Laat me haar rust! Laat me haar rust!
Imagine your parents telling you that if you're not good, if you don't do what mommy and daddy says, Black Pete is gonna come in the house in the middle of the night and beat you with a stick. It perpetuates that black men are violent, that white kids should be afraid of them, and that blackness is dirty and wrong and scary. And so you have this perpetuation happening in schools by white kids who are told this story as a children's story, as a harmless children's story that stops kids from doing bad things at the expense of black people. And that is what clowndom has historically done. It has been a way to make fun of black people at the expense of black people.
Umíš, říkej. Jak jsme to říkali v chautě. Čertíku, bertíku, co to neseš?
What's up, y'all? This is DJ Radon at TTM Academy, and today is a very, very important lecture. I've been working on a blackface chart over this pandemic, and this is kind of page 2 of the chart. This is a Christmas chart. This is the origins of Christmas in the EU and the UK. So this is the blackface origins. Okay, so now everybody celebrates Christmas in the West. A lot of people. It's one of the major holidays. And, you know, if you hear about the elves, we think of elves as like these green people. We think of the Grinch, right? But before the elves were green, the elves were actually blackface. All right? So there's different permutations of blackface ridicule all across Europe. And, you know, a lot of Europeans will try to tell you, like, oh, it's just in the Netherlands. There's only people in the Netherlands that are doing it. But if you actually do the research, it's all over Europe. So today's lecture, I'm just going to do a very, very quick lecture and show all the different, various different regions in Europe, various different countries, like maybe 10, 11 countries, and showing the blackface Christmas tradition in each country. All right, so I'm going to flip over. All right, so I'm going to flip to the screen. All right, so this is a chart. Let's see. All right, so we're going to zoom out. All right, so this is the origins of Christmas in the European Union and the UK. All right, so this is a chart that you know, I'll have it available for download. Right, but this is coming from a forthcoming book on blackface. So we're going to start with here. We're going to go through all these different countries. We've got right here, we've got the Netherlands, right? And in each different country, the blackface character has a different name. Generally, he's called Zwarte Piet or Black Peter. That's in the Netherlands, but you know, in different countries they give him different names. In some countries you can see he's a black devil demon. In some countries you can see they're ridiculing Moors, right? You see the Fez, right? There's thousands and thousands of of Caucasian Europeans wearing blackface in Spain right here, right? So we're gonna, right now it says Zwarte Piet, Black Peter, and Sinterklaas, the Santa holiday. So that's where Santa comes from. Santa comes from Sinterklaas, right? And Santa, so the supposed legend, I'll flick back around. So the legend goes like this, is that Sinterklaas enslaved a black man named Peter, and then then Sinterklaas would go to different places, and Peter would give the children gifts, and if the children were bad, Peter would throw them in the bag. And that was like the most kind of watered down version of the story. Other places, like in France, they have the cannibal where he would eat the kids, and other places he was the black demon, black devil. All right, so we're gonna flip through those and look at those right now. All right, so we've got the Netherlands here, and you can see like this is this chart shows that the European holidays have a sociopathic geist that's running through them. Right, this is clearly a sociopathic geist, right? And so let's start with here. So you see this father and this daughter, right? I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. This father and the daughter, right? Like this is just kind of sickening. Actually, I'm gonna zoom in with the let's see. I'm gonna zoom in with the computer so it's a little bit higher resolution. Let me flip back around. All right, so I'm gonna zoom in with the computer instead of zooming in with my phone. All right, so let's move around here and scroll back up. All right, so here we are. All right, so I'm zoomed in a little bit. So you can see this is this father and his little girl. They're starting them off at an early age. Like this little girl looks like she can barely walk. Like she looks like she's 2, right? 2, if that, and he's got her in full out blackface. And this is in the Netherlands, right? This is in the Netherlands, right? They still have a king that supports this. And, people have been trying to get this, banned out there, but, they arrest people when they protest, So shout out to all the Zwarte Piet is racism protesters that have been protesting for years.
Because the character of Zwarte Piet originated during colonial times, many view the practice as insensitive or racist.
Die Zwarte Pieten, dat kan echt niet meer, toch?
Others see it as an innocent part of a childhood tradition. In fact, millions see it this way.
And what's interesting is I remember when I first found out about this, when I first found out about Zwarte Piet, I was substitute teaching back in this is early 2000s in New York. And I remember I was in the high school subbing, and I told some of the students, and they're like, "Oh no, you're lying. We're gonna tell on you." And I'm like, "Yeah, tell. Look, it's on Wikipedia, right?" And so you can find all this information if you type blackface in these different countries. All right, so you see this is here again. This is Sinterklaas or Saint Nicholas, and also remember Old Nick. If you look in the dictionary, Saint Nick or Old Nick is another name for the devil. Lucifer has an alternate name named Old Nick, right? So this is Old Nick as as Sinterklaas, all right? And all right, so here he is with the kids, and he's got the guy in the blackface, right? So look.
Bitte. Der Friede Gottes sei mit euch. Sonst wohne ich in meinem Reich, durch euch gehe ich von Haus zu Haus und teile den Kindern Gaben aus. Weit war der Weg vom Walde her, auch kalt und frostig, wolkenschwer.
Blackface, right? And you can also see that there's an association with blackface and clowns too, and that's a whole nother story because the clown, if you notice, clowns always have afros, right? I don't know if any of y'all have ever noticed, anytime you see a clown, the motif, a clown almost always has an afro. And in my research, I found that, it might be that the clown actually emerged out of the blackface ridicule of Zwarte Piet. So they're making fun of the flashy black clothes, just like we wear flashy clothes now. We're always wearing, all the flashy illustrés or whatever. So they're making fun of the flashy clothes, the gold chains, the gold earrings, the afros. So we're going to flip back, and you're going to see that motif throughout all over Europe.
And they made a mockery of this and went around the world and went around the country doing these minstrel shows. And eventually that image went into the circuses, where circus clowns started to do that.
Why? Why the clown? A symbol of joy, mostly. A symbol of happiness. Why is the clown also this system, this symbol of racism, especially in this country? There is a particular sinister taste with the marriage of fun, of comedy, of joy, and racism. When you make a minstrel show, for example, something that people at the time enjoyed a lot, you make it really popular. It was one of the most popular kind of show forms in the early 1900s. You do all of these things, and it becomes almost an attack on the joy of white folks, or the joy of people who were enjoying it, when a black person is like, y'all are making fun of me. I don't like that. You get people that are defensive. Y'all know about that blackface parade? That St. Nicholas blackface parade? Let's talk about it. So in Sweden, there is a really well-known character called Black Pete. Black Pete is typically described as an elf that traveled with Santa Claus. Helped him deliver presents, helped him carry, stuff around. But when you read the books, Pete is a black man, and he's lugging the presents around like a slave. And he is responsible for hitting the naughty kids with the stick. Now, if you don't understand why this is an issue, why this is a problem, let's think about what it would be like as a kid to read that story.
So all over Europe, they're ridiculing us, right? So there's a little family right there, there's a little girl, and they've got the slave right there giving the gifts, right? So this is the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, they call him Zwarte Piet. Zwart means black, Piet means Peter, right? And then Santa is Sinterklaas, right? All right, so that's the Netherlands.
Als je slaapt, dan vullen wij je schoen. Met pepernoten, marsepein vullen wij je schoen. Ja, als je slaapt, dan vullen wij je schoen. Met pepernoten, chocola vullen wij je schoen. Allebei, Zwarte Pieten stijl. Hey, Sinterklaasje. Hop, 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 hop. Zwarte Pieten stijl. Hey, Sinterklaasje.
Elk jaar om 5 december krijg ik al een kleur. Ik weet wat me te wachten staat, een schimmel voor de deur. Ik heb wat drank in huis gehaald, ontvang ze met een lied. Maar het ene jaar drinken ze wel en het jaar daarop weer niet.
To you, Santa Claus may resemble a slightly anorexic Santa Claus in formal church attire. No coincidence, as Santa Claus is simply the Coca-Cola Company's more marketable version of Sint. Although Christmas and Santa Claus bear some resemblance, there is one aspect that is markedly different. Blackface. As with any person of his celebrity status, Sint travels with an entourage. These are Zwarte Pieten. These jovial and mischievous chimney sweeps do most of the heavy lifting for their elderly friend. They provide the treats for the good children and the punishment for the bad. A misbehaving Dutch child will not only get no gifts, but Pete will also shove them in a sack, beat them with a stick, and drag them back to Spain.
So now we're going to go to the next country. We're going to go to Holland. All right. All right, so next place not far away. All right, so Krampus, Zwarte Piet, Black Peter, and Sinterklaas on the Santa holiday in Holland. So we see that we've got Moors in blackface, white people, Caucasian people wearing blackface with gold chains, right? Just like how, you know, black people, we wear gold chains now, we have the fly clothes. They're making fun of us, and these are supposed to be slaves and Saint Nicholas. So Santa is a slave master. That's what's very, very important. Santa traditionally comes from being he's a slave master that's enslaved these people right here, and then he's also enslaved the devil. So in some parts of Europe, he's enslaved a Moor, a black man, and in some parts of Europe, they say he's enslaved a black man as a devil, like a black devil. So you can see the overlap here. All right. So this is in Holland, actually, where they're showing. Now, this figure, you know, has different names all over Europe, right? And this is called Zwarte Piet here in Holland and Netherlands, right? Because of the language. But, you know, if you go over to other countries, you'll see that they also have the black devil type of thing. But we'll get to Italy in a second. Right, and Krampus. You know, this is also called Krampus in Austria. Very, very racist country, right? And all right, so we're gonna go to the next one. All right, so this is set to establish and prove that blackface, that Christmas comes from blackface, and Santa Claus comes from a slave master. And I hate to even say slave master. It's better to say human trafficker. You know, just like we shouldn't be saying slaves, we should be saying enslaved persons. You know, Santa, we shouldn't be saying slave master. It's really, you know, a human trafficker. So, you know, the original Santa character comes from a black human trafficker, right? All right, so he's trafficking all these, you know, these devils here, black devils here, and these black Moors here. All right, now we're going to go over to Hungary, right? So this is the Krampus Festival in Hungary. So in more Eastern Europe, they call him Krampus, right? Like Austria, Hungary, right? So this is them wearing blackface, right? And this is representing the same character, the same Christmas. This is the same Christmas character, right? So this is in Hungary, right? Okay. Now we're gonna flip over to the next country. All right. So we're gonna go all over Europe. So now we're in Bulgaria. All right, and this is the same thing. You see blackface. This is Caucasian people ridiculing black people. And I even saw one example where there was a march of them wearing Krampus, and there was a black woman in the march watching over Christmas, and they were taunting her and calling her mommy and mother, and they were, you know, acting like she was their mother, right? And yeah, so that's Bulgaria, right? So this is all over Europe. You know, so anytime somebody tries to tell you that it's only in one place, they're lying. You know, it's all over Europe. All over Europe. So this is Switzerland. And in Switzerland, he has a different name. So you can see Black Peter. Instead of being called Zwarte Piet or Black Peter, it's called Schmutzli, I guess. Schmutzli. And then instead of Sinterklaas, they call the human trafficker of Black Peter, they call him Santy Claus or Sammy Claus, right? So obviously this is all coming. This is where Santa Claus comes from. You know, nobody can dispute this. This is indisputable, right? All right, so this is in Switzerland, right? And everybody's like, oh, Switzerland's non-biased. They're not racist. It's non-biased. It's a neutral country. This is clearly not neutral, right? They've actually got this blackface character coming into children's homes as like a rite of passage in some ways. For, you know, I've seen them give a little boy like a staff and like, yeah, you're kind of like a knight now, you know, and Santa's giving you this staff and you can, you know, kind of dominate and have dominion over this black slave as well, right? So you see, yeah, right? So we can see, right? These are, so this is called Schmutzli, Black Peter in Switzerland. It's called Schmutzli, right? And there's even kind of Semitic you know, undertones in this one. Like, you know, the beards on these guys right here, right there, look kind of like a Semitic kind of style. All right, now this is Italy. All right, we're going to Italy. Italy's up next. All right, and we can see the same characters. This is Krampus Festival. And these are masks from 1860 from Ruggiero Leoncavallo's opera. And yeah, so obviously, you know, that's some older roots of it, but you can see this is clearly supposed to be like a black person, right? So they're ridiculing black people all over Europe. So this is Italy, all right? So we've got the same Santa Claus character, right? And we've got the same black devils, right? Right? And these ones have horns, right? But then these guys don't have horns. They're more of just like a, you know, a brother with a beard, right? So that's Italy, right? So we've established that in Italy, right? And we see that this connects back to Santa Claus, right? This is Saint Nicholas, Old Nick, right? And if you look up in the Old Saint Nick, but if you look up Old Nick in the dictionary once again, you'll find Lucifer is another name for Old Nick, right? All right. So now we're gonna go to the next country. So we've left in Italy. All right, and now we're going to Holland. All right, so another part of Holland. So all right, and so this is another parade in Holland. This is this is like a folklorish parade. All right, I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce that, but this is the Savage and Zwarte Piet, Black Peter in Holland. So this guy, they call him the Savage, and they parade around Europe, and you know they're like, hey, we're savages. And you know what's also interesting about this is that this headdress that he has on is a, you know, black Native American headdress, which is deep, you know, because, you know, when Pharrell wore a headdress, anybody that remembers when Pharrell wore a headdress, people came at him like, you can't wear no headdress and da-da-da. But it's like, you know, black Americans have been in America for at least 130,000 years. And I'll show that fact in the enhanced version of this lecture. All right, so let's go back. Okay, so that's very interesting that, you know, people come down on Pharrell for wearing a headdress, yet, you know, in Europe, they know that, you know, headdresses and black people, Indian headdresses, you know, feathered headdresses go hand in hand, right? Because we were always going back and forth, and, you know, they were aware of, you know, the Moorish travelers that were, you know, giving them education and bringing universities and getting them out the Dark Ages, and then, you know, they expelled us, you know, around 1492, 1491, Treaty of Granada, and they've been ridiculing us ever since. All right, and Christmas is a holiday that establishes that. So yeah, we see once again, this is kind of like a clown kind of jester kind of motif. And once I'll say it again, you know, modern clowns may actually come from this. So I'll do more research on the history of clowns, but, you know, it's starting to look like, you know, the history of clowns relates to the history of Zwarte Piet.
Things are changing, though. In some parades, there are no more big wigs, red lips, or gold earrings. The black faces? More like chimney soot streaks. Many businesses are trying to avoid controversy by not selling products with the traditional Zwarte Piet look.
All right, so we're out of Holland. All right, now we're going to go to the next country. All right, we're going to zoom over. All right, let's go to the side. All right, so now we're going to go down to here. Now this is, let's see, let's go a little bit lower. I'm going to zoom in, so I'm going to scroll some. All right, so this is Germany. All right, so this is Germany, right? And this is the same character. This is Krampus. So this is, you know, the black man is a devil in Germany who was enslaved by Santa Claus. And let's see, let's go to the next one. We see this is like the Magi, like the three Magi for baby Jesus. And I guess this is the Black Magi is here in blackface. There's a blackface more, right? And here, so let's read what these actually say. It says Santa Claus, Santa, Zwarte Piet, Necht, Ruprecht, Smuchli, at the Fasching Festival, the Savages, Balthazar, the Nativity of the Wise Men, and Belsnickel. So this guy is supposed to be Balthazar, I guess one of the three wise men or whatever, and you know, they have him in blackface, right? And then you go to here, this guy's supposed to be a savage, right? This is in Germany. They parade in the streets like this. So little, you know, children in these countries are being indoctrinated with racism at an early age, right? At a very, very early age. This is all over Europe. So don't let anybody tell you, oh, it's only in the Netherlands, but this is all over Europe, even though it's most popular in the Netherlands, right? All right, and then so yeah, this is them doing the same thing. They're supposed to be savages, right? And then, so Necked Rupert, I believe, is this guy who's another version of Black Pete, and he's more of like a friar kind of Black Pete. And he's still a slave, but he's a friar kind of slave. He's I guess, a devout slave. And you see they have the big afro wigs on, and yeah, so they're ridiculing Black people all over Europe. You know, if you go to Africa, you don't see them doing, you know, nations all over Africa, you know, people ridiculing Caucasian people, right? It's like, we don't have time for that, you know, but it's very, very deep. It's like, why would they do this, you know? And we might talk about that at the end of this lecture. All right, so, right, so we can see all these things that are happening, right? Now, so yeah, these are the savages, and this is Necked Rupert, right? And, yep, so let's go to the next one, all right? So we got out of Germany. Now we're going to go to America for European-American heritage that was brought over from Europe to here. And this is the same blackface character, and this is Belsnickel. So this is, you know, a Dutch name. Belsnickel is another Dutch name for this Zwarte Piet type of character. And you can see this is in Pennsylvania in the USA, right? So this is like, you know, European diaspora bringing the tradition over here to the Americas. So we can clearly see that the tradition was brought here to the Americas from Europe, right? Okay, so it's the same kind of, you know, and he's got these things in his, you know, the antlers, so it looks kind of like a little bit like horns, but, you know, he's in front of a bunch of kids wearing blackface, but I guess they think it's, you know, just like a costume, right? But yeah, so everybody that's just coming in the room, this is a lecture on the origins of Christmas in Europe, and this proves that the origins of Christmas in Europe is rooted in the blackface tradition and ridiculing Black people. So basically, Christmas is like a ridicule Black people holiday and parade the streets. All right. So now we're going to go to the next country. All right. We're going to go to Greece. All right. All right. Where Tom Hanks just moved to. Right. All right. And so this is Tom Hanks, you know, somebody who's also complicit with blackface. And for those who haven't seen him chilling with somebody in blackface, you know, you can look at our past lectures, my past lecture on blackface, and I'll put a link to that. All right, so this is a black devil demon, right? This is a caricature of a Black person in Greece, and it's a Christmas character called, it's a Christmas goblin. Let's see, it's Kalikantzaros, or Kalikantzaros, I guess, the Christmas goblin in Greece. Right, so this is the Christmas goblin, and I think this is them like cutting the tree of life or something like that. I think there's some type of thing that goes with that, but you see this kind of ties in with the Christmas tree being cut, right? And yeah, right, so you see this is like they're kind of living in hell, like these like goblins coming from the underworld, right? And they're coming up and they're terrorizing the Caucasian Christians above ground, right? You know, so obviously, you know, there's, you know, hundreds of thousands of years of Black people being in Europe, if not millions. And, you know, we were expelled in you know, a little bit after 1492 and whatnot, 1491, with the Treaty of Granada. And, you know, you can see ever since, you know, they've been ridiculing us. So that's Greece, right? All right. And I'm going to look a little bit closer in this one. You can see that you know, it's clearly like Black people coming from the underground terrorizing everybody, right? So you know, if you reference, you know, Jung or Jungian psychology or Freudian psychology, whichever you go by, you know, when people talk about the shadow and their dreams, you know, many Europeans tend to have Black people in their dreams representing kind of like their primitive self and, you know, fears and things like that. So this is very, very interesting on a psychological level about why so many people would be so sociopathic in a group context, you know, group sociopathy and psychopathy. But this is, you know, more sociopathy because they're, you know, not a danger to themselves in these marches or others. But, you know, it is dangerous to the minds of children. All right. And so this is Sinterklaas, Santa, Zwarte Piet in Belgium. All right, so this is the same exact holiday all over. So you see, all over Europe, it's the same, right? So this is Sinterklaas or Santa, who's also Saint Nicholas, Old Nick, and he's a human trafficker. called slave masters who has enslaved this person called Zwarte Piet. Now, they've made this into a plural. Originally, it was just one. He just had one slave, but then they made it into Zwarte Pieten and added en and made it plural. So it's like kind of like the elves. So in our modern context, we have them as elves living in the North Pole. But before all that, that's more of a modern thing. It was, you know, a Caucasian man enslaving black people and making them work for them. So that's where the whole elves thing. So elves are basically slaves, they come from black slaves. And it's also interesting too, because you see all the Moorish characters in here, and you know, we call elves elves, but El is also a last name of many Moorish diaspora all over the world since ancient times. You know, going back to Elohim and, you know, different types of tribes and gods and things like that. So, you know, they switched them and made them into elves, right? And it almost sounds like elves, like ELS, but it's elves, right? Okay, so now we're going to France, all right? And, you know, France is also a very, very racist country. I mean, you know, I've experienced a lot of racism in Europe. And, you know, actually, my mom got robbed out there. Like, you know, it's very, very, you know, anti-black country, all right? And if those who remember, they wouldn't let the black troops march, I think, in World War II when they helped win and stuff like that. All right, so this is Pierre Fotard, all right? I'm sure I'm butchering the French because I'm sure you probably chop off the D or something. But this is Pierre Fotard, and he's more of a, you know, he's a black friar that's also a slave. So he's like a pious slave. He's like a friar that Santa Claus owns and has the kids give him gifts. And this is like this is Le Pierre Fotard, the Christmas Cannibal. So they also call him the Christmas Cannibal. So this guy is supposed to eat the little kids. The black man is supposed to eat the little kids. That's the original story. If the kids are bad. And, you know, now it's like, oh, they put a piece of coal, but you notice the coal relates to the black stuff because what happened, like if you go to different places in Europe, a lot of people will be like, oh, this isn't a black person. This is he's a chimney sweep. He's just got coal on his face. He's a chimney sweep. And if you look online, you'll find that, you know, trying to justification of that and be like, no, this isn't blackface. He's a chimney sweep. He's not supposed to be a black person, even though he has gold chains and an afro and gold earrings. You know, it's like it's clearly these are supposed to be black caricatures, right? All right, so you know, so yeah, this is Pierre Fotard, the Christmas Cannibal. This is actually a greeting card. This is a Christmas greeting card with little kids screaming in the basket. And this guy, you can see he's got a little bit of blackface, so it looks like it's just kind of more oily, it's kind of swarthy kind of look. But, you know, he's actually kidnapping these kids, right? And the other kids are freaking out. And this one kid, he's holding his hand, and, you know, the kid knows he's nice. But the other little kids in the basket are freaking out. They're literally screaming. They're literally crying, right? So this is part of, you know, indoctrination of you know, white supremacy. Even though white supremacy doesn't exist, they think it exists. And, you know, they're indoctrinating their kids with, you know, with this kind of mental, you know, garbage, you know. They're just turning out racist kids, you know. They're indoctrinating them at an early age. Now, so this is him again. He has a club. So he's said to have, Pierre Fotard's said to have a club, right? Okay. And then these are the savages. This is Pierre Fotard, the Christmas Cannibal, St. Nicholas, Santa, Zwarte Piet, and St. Nicholas, and at the Dunkirk Festival, savages. So these savages are from the Dunkirk Festival, all right? And I think I forgot to say that this guy in Germany, instead of calling him Krampus, they call him Belsnickel, right? So he's called Belsnickel in Germany. All right, but yeah, back to France. All right, so we see once again here Santa and a more Zwarte Piet version, you know, whereas this is more of the Pierre Fotard version, right? Or we can also call him Smutchley, right? From like in Switzerland, right? He's kind of like a friar. He's got the classic friar outfit, right? Now we're gonna move to the next country. All right, so now we're gonna scoot over to over here. All right, so this is Austria, all right, So, and if anybody knows, Austria is where, Hitler comes from, and, the Habsburgs and all that stuff, and all that drama, right? Now, so in Austria, they celebrate him as more of as a black devil, and they call him Krampus. And Krampus has actually gotten more popular over the years, because I remember when I first learned about Krampus, like over a decade ago, maybe a decade and a half ago, there wasn't a lot online about Krampus. And since then, the metal community and a lot of people have kind of taken on Krampus, and the parades are getting bigger and bigger every year, actually.
Creative people to get on your nerves. You know what I mean? I need a break. The drama of it all. I don't think I can take much more of this.
So Krampus is representing a black man that's a devil that Santa Claus has enslaved, and helps, and now the black devil works for Santa Claus, and putting the naughty children in his satchel, right? Just like here in France, right? You see he's in the satchel. I mean, in like this back, basket on his back, right? So it's the same character. Even though they give him different names all around Europe, it's the same character, right? And don't let anybody try to fool you and be like, no, that's not, these aren't black people, all right? Because I've seen videos where they have these masks on like this in Austria, and like I was saying before, this was in Austria, the example I was talking about before, where they were ridiculing this black woman in the audience that was she was just, standing on the side of the road as a bystander, and they were literally, ridiculing her and calling her mommy, All right, so these are the same characters. This is Krampus, and you see Santa Claus. So this is where Christmas comes from. And these were just, these characters were turned into elves, right? So you see, once again, this is Santa Claus and a bunch of like black kind of goat devils, right? So it's kind of like Satan, making black man as Satan. So the Christmas holiday is rooted in ridicule of black people, right? Because Santa Claus, the story says that Santa Claus is a human trafficker, a slave master that enslaved Zwarte Pieten, and he enslaved him, right? So he's his slave master. He's the master. So having your kids sit on this man's lap, is enabling, this toxic tradition.
No vidíš, jak to umíš.
A když mi slíbíš, že nebudeš zlobit, tak pro tebe něco mám. Ne, nebudu. Nebudeš?
Hele, čert má sádru, člověče, ten zlobil dostal přes pazoury někde.
Tak buď hodný. Tak tady máš hele, já to udělám a já přijdu zas. A jestli budeš zlobit, tak z černa. No, tak přijdeme.
Jo?
A odnesu si tě sebou. My si tě přijdeme zkontrolovat ještě.
Jdi se na něj ještě šáhnout na čerta, jako minulý rok. Jdi se s ním pomazlit, jako minulý rok.
Když jsi byl hodnej, tak se nemáš čeho bát, ne? No.
Tak mu dej pusu čertovi.
Budeš černý, tak
And so a lot of people would say, well, Ray, that's the past. I mean, why are you living in the past? We don't, they're not wearing the blackface now here in America. That's just Europe. They're still wearing the blackface. Well, the thing is that the reason why it's important to remember the past and use the past to make decisions in the future and for the present is because only people that don't consider the past are, you could call them, animals or children or, people with mental deficiencies that aren't taking the past into account. So this is why we take the past into account. And for many Black Americans, I almost call myself African American, but I don't say African American because, Black people have always been here in the Americas. We're the first ones here. So as a Black American, it's a tradition in our communities that many of us will collect racist artifacts from Caucasian people. So, you know, you could go into many Black Americans' homes and you'll find, you know, figurines of mammy stereotypes or figurines of Sambo stereotypes and things like that. And like even my mom, I grew up with that in the house where, you know, I just grew up seeing, you know, the figurines and all this stuff. In the same way within the Hebrew communities where people say never forget, it's kind of a similar thing within Black communities where we're never forgetting, you know, all of the ridicule, you know, that went down with the slavery wars and apartheid and all those type of things. All right, so I'm going to flip back. Okay. All right, now let's see. So where were we? We were here in so we're in Austria. So now we're going to leave Austria and we're going to go to Spain. All right, so we're going to go down to Spain. So let me scroll this down. All right, we're going to go over to Spain. All right, so in Spain here, you can see, right, we've got a whole crowd. Like, I've never seen this many fezzes in my life, actually. And it's dedicated to ridiculing Black people. Like, that's really, really deep, right? And, you know, this is clearly ridiculing Black people. So this is a festival in Spain called Dia de los Reyes Magos, right? Or a day of the I guess the three kings, the King Magi's, right? This is the celebration and festival. So we can see, right? So these are like the three kings, right? Or no, I see these are just like Magi in general. But yeah, they're all wearing blackface. You can see these are all Moors in blackface. You know, these are Caucasian Europeans ridiculing Black people, right? The same Black people that came to Europe and established universities. Why would they be ridiculing them? You know, and that's for y'all to, you know, you guys can leave comments why y'all think they would ridicule. But you see what this does to a little girl's mind. What do you think this little girl is going through when she is being raised by, you know, sociopathic, you know, very sick people like this that would have these people come into their house? This happens all over Europe where they'll actually have these blackface characters and the slave master come into the house and, you know, and give the kids gifts, right? So, and that's what the whole, you know, sitting on the lap thing comes from. You know, it's just sitting on the slave master's lap, right? Because once again, this gentleman right here, he's a slave. You know, he's an enslaved person. He's an enslaved person. Zwarte Piet is a slave, right? An enslaved person. All right, so this is Dia de los Reyes Magos, right? So we can see that here. They climb up the ladders into people's houses and give gifts, right? So this is where, so originally, Santa Claus wasn't even given the gifts. Originally, the gift giver was the Moor, right? The Black person, right? And when I say Moor, I'm, you know, that's interchangeable with Black person when I'm talking about Moor, all right? All right, so you can see this is Spain. So we've gone all over Europe. For those that are just coming in the room, we've gone all over Europe, and now we're in Spain, and this is where Christmas comes from. This is the Christmas holiday, because you can see, look, this is Christmas. They're sitting on Santa's lap. They got the blackface. This is where the Christmas holiday comes from. So this is the origins of Christmas in the European Union and the UK. All right, and lastly, we're going to go all the way to the UK. All right, so let's scoot this over so we can see it. All right, so we're in the UK, and shout out to everybody that's coming in the room. So now we're in the UK, and you can see this is, guess who do you think this is? This is the former Prime Minister of the UK, James Cameron, with David Cameron, with people chilling in blackface. So this is called Morris or Moorish Day Festival Dancers with former UK Prime Minister David Cameron of the United Kingdom. Right, and in the past we've shown, the Prime Minister of the current Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, was caught wearing blackface multiple times, and he even was published wearing blackface, you know, in his college yearbook, right? So we can see here. So when you have the former leader of a free world wearing blackface, you can hanging out with people wearing blackface, you can kind of put two and two together and, you know, realize, you know, like what Brexit's about, and, you know, like they don't want England turning Muslim and black, right? It's a very, very racist country out there. You know, the Queen of England and all of that, those are the same people that were involved in slave trafficking. You know, the same, all the those crown jewels and all that stuff's from the same era. It's the same exact address. Like, even though they, you know, supposedly ended it earlier than other people, they still did it, and they still have all the money from it. They haven't paid nothing back, no reparations, no nothing, right? And everybody else has gotten reparations. There's World War II reparations, Holocaust reparations, but, you know, everybody's still laughing at us all over the world. Everybody, you know, especially in Europe, they're ridiculing us. And in future lectures, we're going to go into, you know, Asia and different countries, how blackface manifests itself out there. But, you know, this is specifically about the Christmas holiday and the fact that, you know, so this is like, I believe this might be like day after Christmas, like Boxing Day or something. I'm not sure when Morris Day is celebrated, but you see, yeah, they put on their blackface and they act like black people. So to wrap it up, all right, we're gonna just do a quick recap. So we got United Kingdom. In United Kingdom, it's called Morris Day, the blackface ridicule holiday. That's the Christmas origin holiday. And then in Spain, the Christmas holiday, the blackface Christmas holiday, is called Dia de los Reyes Magos. All right. So that's Spain, all right? This is Spain, where they really, all right? And then we're going to go to Austria. We're going to scroll back up to Austria over here. All right, we're going to go to Austria. So, and in Austria, they call him Krampus. They ridicule black people and make them into a black devil. It's called Krampus, right? We can zoom in there and see some, you know, they really get into these costumes. They really, really get into these costumes. It's a big deal out there, all right? All right, and then we go over here to Belgium, right? They're doing it in Belgium, all over Europe, all over the EU. They're ridiculing black people during Christmas, and this is where Christmas comes from. And it's very important for people to know this information, right? For the, you know, knowledge is power, right? All right, and this is, and so that's Belgium, and now we're going to go over to France, all right? This is France, and this is the Savage. They call him these people the Savage, and this is them parading as black savages going down the street, right? And this is Pierre Fatard, and he's the Christmas Cannibal. See, he says the Christmas Cannibal. This is a greeting card. So this is in France. They celebrate for people that are just coming in. In France, they celebrate the blackface Christmas tradition. Because Christmas comes from blackface. We've proved here that Christmas is a blackface tradition. It's a black ridicule holiday. It's a holiday to ridicule, to establish, you know, mastery over and dominion over black people, right? Because that's what Santa Claus represents. He's the slave master of Pierre Fatard, or Zwarte Piet in other countries, right? So this is more of like a Zwarte Piet rendition of him, probably in an area of France, maybe closer to the Netherlands and Belgium, right? But this is the he's like a friar in this version, more of a friar slave, right? And yeah, so he gives the kids the gifts, and he also puts eats the kids and puts, you know, throws them in his bag if they're not good, right? Okay, so that's France, all right? Okay, so now we're gonna scroll up, all right? So this is the same Saint Nicholas. This is Saint Nick. This is Santa Claus, and with the same Pierre Fatard, but in this is in Switzerland. They call him Smutsli, right? Smutsli, and it's the same thing, right? You see, and then they got the Savages again, Savage Parades, and then this is Belsnickel, right? So this is Germany, and this is them ridiculing black people. And notice these people look like kind of more like Pacific Islanders, like the whole kind of Islander kind of styles, right? They used to call Jimi Hendrix the Mad Maori when he first came out. All right. Now we're going to go over to America, right? And you can see this tradition was brought over to America. So this is Pennsylvania, and you can see this is still like, you know, the original tradition that was brought over, the original Christmas blackface tradition. And then we go over here to Greece. The blackface tradition is, these are the black goblin, right? So it's called, it's the Christmas goblin. It's Kalikantzaros, the Christmas goblin, right? So these are black devils, right? You can see these black people represented as devils, right? So this is what they teach their children in Europe. All right, and this is still taught. These aren't old pictures. This is all new stuff, you know. All right, and this is Holland, right? And we can see this is the savage again, right? Represented as like a black Native American, right? And this is the, you know, the more kind of a jester enslaved person version. So these are all slaves. Remember, all these blackface people and all these images, they're all slaves of Santa Claus, all right? So this is Zwarte Piet again, Black Peter. And like I was saying, it's Zwarte Pieten when it's plural, so there's multiple ones. Now we're going over to Italy, right? Same thing. Same thing in Italy. Same thing in Italy, right? Right, the Krampus Festival in Italy, right? And then we're going over to Switzerland, same thing, right? And they call him Sammy Claus, just like we say Santa Claus, they say Santa Claus with a G, right? So this is clearly where Santa Claus comes from. There's no disputing it, and Santa Claus comes from a racist tradition, right? And it makes you wonder, why is it the #1 tradition in America, a place that, you know, a country that was, you know, enslaving black people for hundreds of years, you know, during a series of wars, you know, as prisoners of war, right? So this is Switzerland, right? You can see them once again, right? So this is the same character, right? And they bring these characters into the homes too. It's a part of the ritual sometimes, is to not only see them at church or see them in a parade, but they also come into the home, right? Okay. Now we're gonna go over to we're gonna scroll up. We're gonna go to Bulgaria, right? So this is Bulgaria. All the way in Bulgaria, they're doing it too, right? And they call him Krampus in Bulgaria, right? In Hungary, they call him Krampus. Same thing. He's a black devil. And then we're going over to Holland, right? And, you know, in Holland, they have both the Krampus and the Zwarte Piet together. And, you know, and the Caucasian man has dominion over them. He's their slave master. He's their owner. He's their rapist, you know, their human trafficker, right? And then we have, you know, this right here. We got, you know, we see them in the Netherlands, you know, so this is proof that it's all over Europe, all over the EU, right? And they even indoctrinate little kids. Look at this little, like, she's like 2 years old. You know, maybe she's 1.5. She looks very, very young. And they're actually painting blackface on her face. Like, that's sickening. You know, that's very, very, it's very deep. You know, it's very deep on a psychological level, you know, because, you know, you would think, why would these people go this far to do all this? All right. And so we're done for today with this lecture. All right. So, and the last thoughts on this, you know, why would these people do this? Why would people go so far to do that? And, you know, if you take into the work of Frances Cress Welsing, you know, she was breaking it down into the whole idea of, you know, genetic annihilation and all that type of stuff, and Caucasian people fearing black genetic annihilation and fearing, you know, black genitalia and fearing, you know, the black seed. So, you know, obviously if you fear something you want, and you don't, people ridicule many times what they fear. So it's like you can see that they're ridiculing black people because, you know, they fear us or envy us. You know, they envy, you know, our genetic dispositions and things like that, and even financial or things like that. Because at the time when these traditions emerged, remember, you know, Europe was living in the Dark Ages, and it was, you know, black Moors that came to Europe and set up universities in Spain and then other places, and then and brought them out of the Dark Ages, right? So you know, that's it. Peace, everybody. So that was a quick Christmas lecture. This is the origins of Christmas. I'm gonna flip back around so you can see the whole thing as a whole again. All right. So this is the origins of the Christmas holiday in the European Union and the UK. So there's no, you know, you can't debate this. This is undebatable, right? You cannot debate that Christmas comes from ridiculing black people, because we have all the proof. I just went over all over Europe, and we can clearly see that Christmas comes from the ridicule of black people all over Europe, all over. We just did a whole bunch of countries. And I didn't even do the Ukraine and Turkey and all that. So I'm going to do, you know, Asia and, you know, Middle East and different things like that in other lectures in the future. But this is specifically just about the European Union. And like I was saying before, as far as Brexit, you know, we have James Cameron right here. and Brexit is clearly a racial thing, because they know that the future of Europe is going to be Black, Muslim, Asian, because the birth rates, Caucasian birth rates are in the negative, and the Black birth rates, the Arab and the Asian birth rates are not in the negative. So the future of Europe is going to be is going to be non-Caucasian, and they're scared of that, and that's why the UK clearly left. There's a lot of xenophobia in Europe, right? They're not letting what do you call it? Anytime you have like refugees coming over the boats and stuff like that, they throw them in the water, and just really sick behavior, sick people that have been doing sick stuff for hundreds of years, and that's it. All right, so peace, y'all. All right.
Certain politicians are trying to enact legislation that would make altering his appearance illegal. Many Dutch argue that the tradition of Zwarte Piet is not racist. These are fictitious characters.
This is like plastic. It's super light gold chain, and I thought that this would look nice on it, kind of draped around his shoulders and stuff. Krampus tree topper, right here. Go make stuff!
Sinterklaasje, dag, 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 Zwarte Piet. Sinterklaasje, dag, dag, luister naar ons afscheidslied. Dag Sinterklaas.